Bernard Tobin here at the Grain Farmers of Ontario March Classic, joined now by David Frum. And David's just about to give his presentation and provide some insights on what's happening in America, maybe some thoughts on Donald Trump's presidency. And maybe we'll start there, David. 3 months in here, basically 3 months since the inauguration. What's your assessment of the Trump presidency right now, based on what your expectations are and what we're seeing?
Well, unfortunately, the Trump presidency is living down to my expectations, which were not high. For Canadians, and especially for Canadians concerned with agriculture, the big news is that how serious Donald Trump is about his protectionist commitments, that they really seem bent on doing severe and lasting damage to the world trade system. They use the language of saying we prefer bilateral to multilateral trade. So that sounds, well, technical. But the difference in bilateral and multilateral trade is in a multilateral trade deal, the United States sits down with lots of other countries and can't act like the bully. In bilateral trade deals, the idea is that the United States will lock itself alone in the room with Denmark and beat the bejesus out of it.
What about, tell us about, there's a lot of conversations going on now about the future of NAFTA. Where do you see that going, in the immediate future? It's tough to negotiate trade deals in short periods of time.
Well, the Trump administration doesn't have the infrastructure to nominate trade deals. One of the distinctive features of the Trump administration has been how slow it has been to staff everything except the White House. The White House has been filled up rapidly and often with some very strange and doubtful people. But the operating part of the government, the cabinet departments, including the Department of Agriculture, have been very slow to staff. Beneath the level of the cabinet, there's almost nobody home. And the United States doesn't have a civil service in the Canadian or British sense that can operate the government without those kind of senior appointments. So I don't know that the Trump administration has the capacity to renegotiate NAFTA. But what they are doing are a lot of petty, harassing actions to make the border more difficult and more unpredictable.
How do you assess, the Canadian government's strategy, their relationship that they've built over these 3 months? Where is it, and is it effective?
The most important thing Canada can do in dealing with the Trump administration is keep in mind Canada has more friends in Congress than Donald Trump does. Let me just give you one concrete example. Donald Trump's margin in the state of Pennsylvania was 60,000 votes. Without Pennsylvania, he wouldn't be president. The number of jobs in Pennsylvania that directly depend on trade with Canada, 350,000. So obviously, in dealing with a big, powerful country like the United States, it's always important to keep a smile on your face, but it's also important to keep that mailed fist securely displayed on the table.
Well, just a final comment on Trump. Domestically, I'm thinking Sonny Perdue, for example, has still not been, confirmed. What does that tell you about his, future role, and that choice?
Well, it's not just Sonny Perdue. There are no deputies. There are no assistant deputies. There are no policy people, so nothing can happen. It tells you, first, that Trump is very concerned to concentrate power in his own few hands. If you don't staff the departments, the White House becomes more powerful. It also tells you they're not good at stuff, because confirming people is hard. There are a lot of disclosures you have to make to the Senate. And it also shows they don't really understand how the U.S. government runs, because you can't operate it from the White House, really.
Final question, David, where does this go from here? We're 3 months in. Where are we going to be in another 3 months?
Well, Donald Trump may discover his popularity rising. The economy in the United States is strong, and he will probably end up having to walk away from a health care plan that isn't very popular, even with Republican constituencies. If he just lets prosperity unfold, Americans will appreciate that. But he himself is showing himself unpredictable, unreliable, and untrustworthy, and that's dangerous.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.